Okay, hey everybody. Um, so this was task three was even last semester. We all skipped task three because it was uh, very, very complex and difficult and required almost too much materials. You didn't really get enough out of it for the amount of work and materials that you had to put in. So this is the last thing I'm going to show you before we get to coding. So first, let's read through task four. Says this means pumping water from the ground, cutting wood for building, and grinding grain for flour to eat. So your three requirements are you must create one machine that will perform all three tasks. So just one thing that does all three of those at the same time. Must have only one input, which is really the hardest part of the whole thing, is that you can only really have one drive gear or really one drive area, and then that must kind of segue into all of that stuff happening. And then just to kind of make it a little bit harder is it can't be any larger than 10 inches by 10 inches. So this is a little bit complex because you have to do three tasks and it all has to stem from one spot and it can't be that big. So you kind of have to have a very condensed kind of build going on. So I'm going to go bigger screen for this. I built this. So I don't know if you know what a mill is or a grain mill, but this right here, pretty much as grains would go in, they would be crushed by the two gears, and then the grains would fall through the bottom. So it's actually like a common thing. So pretty much the easy thing about making a mill is all you have to do is just have two gears interlocking, really. If you notice, I actually fixed the mistake that I made from task two. And the mistake that I made, if you remember, was I had my drive gear that was big. And then my driven gears were small. So they were almost going too fast, if you remember. So my torque was low because it was technically harder to get spinning, although it wasn't really difficult. But then my speed was high. So I made my drive gear small here, so it's going to spin slower. Okay, so that was the grinding the grains for flour. I just put, especially since I used just the 12-inch shaft going all the way across, I just put a bigger gear here, and I assumed that would act as a circular saw. So imagine people taking wood and putting it underneath when they're ready. So someone's pouring the grains in and that's working. Somebody who's being safe about it is, putting wood here. So as this spins, then they could cut the wood as well. So I don't know, maybe just to build a house or build something. And then there's more that can happen with this, especially if you have a hole and maybe you have something. I was thinking initially cam and follower, but cam and follower goes up. So I was confused about how to make that work with then pushing down. So I did have a couple of ideas, but I figured just for the sake of this. So now I just have this kind of digging away at a hole. And as this spins, you got the wood cutting, you have the grains being ground down, and then this digging a hole, and the lower you go, the more towards water you're going. So this is pretty much what I came up with. I tried keeping it pretty concise too. I'm not 100% certain that I stayed within the confines of that 10 by 10 because, as I said, I just used the 12-inch shaft. So that was a little bit hard, but I could also swing it where this whole thing is very thin. So, it said it has to be no bigger than 10 by 10. So I probably made mine like 13 by 3. So, that's 39 square feet rather than the 100 square feet. So technically, if you argue, I could do something like that. So this is my build. I just wanted to make you familiar with it. The magic number is 12 for the test after this. That's really just going to be the only question. So 12, Tom Brady's number. And then next class, we will be coding. So I'm going to show you all about the coding, and I'm going to hopefully get you guys to be able to practice coding as well. That's the goal. It's hard because there's a specific app, but we'll do it.